He has brought wit and humour even to British comedy shows, otherwise devoid of those characteristics. It is not just because he's 7 feet 3 inches high that he rises head and shoulders above his generation. Yet his admirers are wrong when they say there's nothing this man can't do. His highboard diving won only a silver medal at the Barcelona Olympics, and his classical whistling is regarded in Croatia as technically perfect, but perhaps lacking in depth. In all other respects, he's got so much, there's only 2 words to describe him: Stephen Fry. Stephen, whistling the classics is a huge hit on Croatian TV. I think we can see why, don't you?
Oh, yes. I love siffleurs, as I believe we call them. It sounds like a sexually transmitted disease, but it is a siffleur. When I was a little chap, like a lot of little chaps my generation, I had an attic stuffed with grandparents' 78s, and there was a great vogue for speciality music in those days, and Whistling Jack something or other, or Whistling Margaret somebody else were huge recording stars, and they would do all kinds of melodies in whistling, and I loved it. I think it's a gorgeous sound. It's an instrument, after all. And I won't hear a word against Slobodan. I think he's an absolute darling of a man. And yodeling, I remember there was a great vogue for yodeling. I mean, long before your countryman, Frank Ifield, arrived on these shores, there was, I remember a record called Let Me Take You to Echo Valley, which was a blissful yodeling. I mean, I just love what the human voice can do. It's like, you know, those sort of nose singing they do in Tibet and things like that. There are all kinds of the human body that can make remarkable noises. Can you
yodel?
Can I yodel?
Yeah.
The short answer to that is no.
Oh,
the long answer is no. No, is the answer definitely.
But that was perfectly convincing.
No, you are sweet. No, if you hear the real thing, though, it's gorgeous. It's a wonderful sound. I think Croatia are very lucky to have him. Very lucky.
What do you think? What do you think's the secret? What do you think's the secret of the truly successful whistler?
Well, you know, I was taught when I was very small by my brother that men shouldn't pucker when they whistle. They should just be like that. That it was somehow vaguely Nancy to go like that. Girls did that. I remember Ian Fleming gave in the mind of James Bond the extraordinary intelligence that you could always tell a homosexual because they can't whistle, you know. It was actually believed this in the 50s. You can tell you're gay sexual because he can't whistle. I don't know why they thought this or what it was indicative of, but I can certainly... Oh, my God! There, you see, it's right.
Well, Whistling the Classics is actually one of the top 10 Croatian TV shows, which rather makes you wonder what the others are, doesn't it?
Well, I suppose it's pretty obvious they don't watch Neighbours, isn't it? They probably watch Croatian Street or something like that. Yeah. Are You Being Serbed? I don't know. It's that one with it's that one with Zoe Wanamaker. Love Hurts Gavinia. I don't know. Balkan things.
Well, let's move on to the serious music, and that's Margarita Prakatan. She's a unique talent, don't you find?
Well, she's a bonny soul. She's bright as a button, and she's obviously enjoys her own company. And it's good to see that New York is following our National Health Service's policies on releasing into the community.
But you're with me in that you would actually like to sing, but can't. Is that true?
No, it's so sad. I just can't. People often assume I can because my voice can go, you know, quite, you know, sort of deep. They kind of think, oh, you should do, you know, Old Man River and things like that. But I don't know. Some people get stage fright. It's a common enough phenomenon. You know, that when they have to address a large number of people, their legs go all watery and they start dry and swallowing, and it's very common, thank God, otherwise we'd be out of a job because everyone would be able to do what we do, which is, you know, and you know, people having to be best man at weddings or whatever are vomiting for hours beforehand in sheer nerves. They hate speaking in public, and you know, 3 or more people, they're desperately nervous. Which reminds me, just on the odd subject of that, I was listening to a radio program the other day about this new kind of psychotherapy that they use. Which is a sort of really confrontational thing, and apparently the National Health Service love it because its results are very, very quick. And this is absolutely true. There was a man talking there about being chronically shy, and he was so shy and so embarrassable that he would blush when he met anybody's eyes. And he was a businessman, and if he went into a meeting and he met somebody's eyes, he would just become overcome with confusion. And the person on the radio program, whatever it was, you know, Science Now or something, said, well, you're talking to me now, and you're talking on radio. How long ago was this? And he said, oh, only about 3 months ago. He said, do you mean to say you've been cured of this complete phobia of basically everything in 3 months? And he said, yes. And they said, well, how do they do it? They said, well, they make you confront it. And he said, you won't believe this, but what they do is they try and make you do the most embarrassing thing possible. And they made me go into a chemist's and say in a loud voice, have you got any smaller condoms? Because these are too big for me. and God's honest truth, this man, I mean, it's just a miracle here, isn't it fantastic? Can you imagine going into I mean, right.
You're off to Hollywood soon for a movie, but what if you're seduced by the hot weather? What if you stay?
Yeah, pretty unlikely, Clive. I actually hate hot weather. I know most people moan about the weather in this country. This is my absolute ideal in climate. You get the odd warm day, but the rest of the time it's nice and cosily windy and brisk and damp. And see, I'm an indoor person. I don't like going outside. I think it's horrid. And the sun, as we know, is an enemy. There was rather a good Matt cartoon in the Telegraph the other day when they had this stuff about how the weathermen were going to tell you how dangerous the ultraviolet rays were. This little fellow going, turned out dangerous again then. I thought it was rather sweet. But, you know, for me, comfort is to sit indoors with the curtains closed and a fire and, you know, nice, feeling warm from artificial warmth, not from that great beaming eye.
It's you and the Americans, I can't imagine. I mean, could you handle all that have a nice day stuff?
Well, yes, you see, I mean, it's become sort of commonplace, isn't it, for British people to think that there's something terribly hypocritical about Americans saying have a nice day. Because, you know, they come back and say, yeah, I mean, they don't mean it. They don't really want you to have a nice day. But it's just manners, you know. I mean, the word hello means health to you, basically. And you know, go around saying, he said hello, he doesn't really want me to have health. You know, it's just I'd much, much, much rather someone said, in all insincerity, said to me, have a nice day and you're welcome, than, there's your chips then. And, what? And you're off then, you go in, all right. Have you finished with this? And all that sort of stuff. I mean, frankly, if there's a choice, give me insincerity, which is kind of got a little built-in politeness behind it. I mean, there are wilder shores of unreason that they inhabit.
Well, like the waiters, you know, like when they start singing the specials to, hi, I'm Todd, and I'll be your waiter this evening, and here are the specials, you know. Yes, can you put up with that stuff? I gets kind of embarrassing.
No, that is a bit peculiar. And there's this oddity about mentioning the time of day, which behind it somehow, it's very hard to prove, but the implication is that they're terrified that they ought to know you, and therefore, the way they say, how are you, implies that they recognize you, because what they always do is they go, and how are you this evening? Which kind of implies that they knew how you were 2 evenings ago. You know, it sort of does, doesn't it? You know what I mean? It's a kind of and, you know, you well this morning? And one's inclined to say, I'm exactly as well as I was 14 mornings ago. But
it is real politeness. That's what wears you out. There's so much of it.
Absolutely.
You get into an elevator and there are 10 people that all want to have a conversation.
Yes. The real downside, in a way, I was chatting to that chap who co-wrote Yes, Prime Minister and Yes, Minister, Jonathan Lynn, is now a director out there, and he said it took him about 2 years to discover that the flip side of this politeness is, of course, is they don't understand anything even vaguely confrontational. That's to say, English people at a dinner party or in any social gathering, if someone says something they disagree with, they might well, in quite an exercise sort of way, go, oh, that's rubbish. No. No, what's really the case is this. You know, when talking about anything from sport to politics or, you know, the weather, you know, they get really quite kind of, you know, involved in it. And, of course, to an American, they just hear you saying, that's rubbish. And they're absolutely devastated. They think that is the rudest thing they've ever heard. You're saying that's rubbish? I mean, you know, what you actually have to do in America, it's very odd, is if someone says, you know, I think green is green, and you go, yes, absolutely, because green's blue as well, isn't it? You know, so you actually completely contradict them, but as if you're agreeing with them. Yeah. And they love that. They absolutely love it, don't they?
Stephen, it's a pleasure to talk to you always, but we have to stop. Thank you very much, Stephen Fry.